Hello the world, hello the internet, hello Jason Isaacs. Yeah, hello people. Back with another video. Well, 'tis the season, so let's crack on with it. Hopefully, on this occasion, a fairly short one, because this is really just going through a fairly niche bit of the course, but hey, it's on the curriculum, so we should probably look at it. So once again, this is Paul Talks Politics. I'm Paul. I should probably talk some politics, and today we're going to talk about lobbyists and think tanks, and we'll be back right after the introduction. So yeah, see you in a second. Cheers now. So let's start off by talking about lobbyists. Now, lobbying is you getting in front of your MP or a minister and getting your point across. It derives from the central lobby in Parliament, where you can go and demand to talk to your MP, and if they're not officially engaged, then they are obliged to come out and see you. Now, obviously not everybody can do that, and so instead what you can do is, if you've got the cash and the time and the various other resources, then you can employ somebody else to do it for you, and these are your professional lobbying and lobbyists, and this is what they do. And this is straight up AO1, so I'm just going to let you read that for yourselves. I'm not going to go through it, but do pause it. And again, we're trying to make sure that we're fixing on that advocate, educate, mobilize matrix, just to maintain that consistent approach, so that when you write your essays, you're going to be able to organize your ideas effectively and coherently. Think of these people as hired guns. You know, they're there if you've got the cash, if you've got the means, then you can get these people to do their job, do that job for you. And why would you do that? Well, because you're looking at some big hitters. You know, you're not paying for cheap labor here. David Cameron was heavily implicated in what we call the Edexcel scandal in 2021, where he was advocating for a financial services company. Shortly after, not long after he had left government, and very shortly before he became Foreign Secretary, if I remember correctly. So yeah, there were very dubious goings on here, and there are rules that concern lobbying, and well, here's perhaps the best example of all of those. Now, I've talked about Owen Paterson before, and he was a key figure in the ultimate demise of Boris Johnson. So here we have a former MP and cabinet minister who was, caught with his hand in the till, and the Parliamentary Standards Committee said, "You can't do this. You're out of order," and basically said he should be kicked out of Parliament. What was interesting here was the way in which Johnson decided to go into bat to support Paterson, and the Conservative government at the time discredited the work of the Parliamentary Standards Commission and tried to create a new committee of their own. Now, if you remember from my discussions of Boris Johnson's demise, they sent out all of the MPs to defend Paterson, only for Paterson essentially to resign later, and making them all look very, very stupid. And so that really undermined Johnson's standing within the party. Remember, these MPs were being sent out to defend the indefensible. They did it basically for an entire weekend. They took tremendous flack from the voters, and in the end it was all to naught, and they were made to look incredibly stupid. Now remember, if your leader is not going to win your next election, then you probably don't want to go into the next election with them as your leader. So that seriously undermined Johnson's credibility. So here we have an MP and indeed a former cabinet minister who broke the lobbying rules, determining what you could and could not do. So going back to here, David Cameron was not eventually implicated, or not certainly found guilty to have broken any rules in the Edexcel scandal, but this is a dark and nebulous area, and it's easy to get dragged into the weeds. So let's just take a step back from the weeds and just ask, are these good or bad for democracy? Well, it's rather like anyone can buy a Ferrari, in that I can go into a Ferrari showroom and I can look at Ferraris. I can't walk out with one because I simply haven't got the cash. So This is the difference between de facto and de jure access. We have the democratic critique saying, look, this is just unfair. If you can pay the piper, then you get to call the tune. You get this professional advice who takes your case to decision makers and does a better job of it than you can do yourself. The other side to that is that, sometimes the government needs this professional advice. Sometimes it needs somebody to put the case to it in a way that they understand. They do claim to listen to all sides, but okay, we can work out perhaps where we stand on that. But you need to make this argument: is the use of lobbyists good or bad for democracy? Make the decision. Come to your AO3. And then we can start to look at think tanks as well. So if lobbyists are your hired guns, then think tanks are your brains in jars. These are policy wonks who sit around a table and come up with ideas for policy. Officially, they are independent in that they are not necessarily allied with any particular party, but some do have ideological credentials that they're prepared to demonstrate, and while others sort of maintain at least a pretense of neutrality. Again, you guys are more than capable of reading, so I'll let you work through that particular AO1 by yourself, and I reckon it's fairly straightforward. They do play a key role in educating, advocating, and mobilizing. Mobilizing perhaps to a much lesser extent, but certainly in terms of educating and advocating, they do a very, very big job there. Here's some evidence of these pressure groups. You need to have these examples tucked up your sleeve. The IEA and Tufton Street generally asserted to be right-wing. Demos and IPP, Demos, IPPR, Resolution Foundation, and Institute for Fiscal Studies, those are all more progressive / left-wing leaning organizations. One key area where think tanks have come to prominence in recent years has been their involvement in the budget. And certainly going back to Liz Truss's case study, it's alleged that Tufton Street, particularly number 55 Tufton Street, was very heavily involved in the drafting of the Truss budget. And again, it has been suggested that Rachel Reeves was influenced by the Institute for Fiscal Studies and the Resolution Foundation when she was putting hers together. Again, it's quite hard to prove influence here, but when you look at some of the people involved, when you look at some of the staffers who have worked in both sides of that particular divide, it's kind of hard to avoid the conclusion that there has been, if not collusion or working together, then at least a fair degree of overlap when it came to putting these budgets together. So in terms of good or bad for democracy, what can we say about think tanks? Well, I mean, they do good work. They do high-level analysis. Yes, it comes with a political slant more often than not, but you're still getting some very, very good research that ministers can choose to ignore if they want to ignore. Perhaps the bigger problem, however, is the opacity of their organisation. It's not entirely clear sometimes who's funding them, who they speak for. And often what you find is policy dressed as research. So it's, again, it's not entirely clear what these people are trying to achieve. And finally, again, it's about that unequal access. If you've got the money, then you have the ability to get your ideas in front of ministers. And again, it's not just necessarily the cash, it's the connections, it's knowing the language that they speak, it's knowing who these people are and who their secretaries are. And that's where the revolving door becomes so relevant, because we see people moving from the government to think tanks and then sometimes back again. So look out for evidence of that as you're going about your research, and that will do you no end of good. So in terms of a summary, we have these professional organizations. If they're professional organizations, then obviously they're not doing it for free. They're going to be looking for some sort of return on their work. And particularly in terms of lobbying groups, if you can secure the services of these lobbyists, then you will enjoy the benefits of the professional service that they offer. Same with think tanks. You're looking for people to present clear and coherent answers or solutions to government that obviously are going to be aligned with your particular interests. And all of that is tied in with knowing how to play the game, knowing who works where, how to get in front of these people, and what they want to hear. So being able to give them what they want. If you can give them what they want, then obviously they're going to thank you for it. Fundamentally, it all comes down to the elitism or pluralism debate. And here, again, we have to think about de facto versus de jure. De facto being in real terms, de jure being by law. De jure, it's great. You can all access think tanks. You can all access lobbyists. You can secure these services. De facto, however, it's a very different story. These people do not come for free. And what that means is that influence, experience, connections can sometimes distort the political debate. I talk about the marketplace for ideas. The idea is that everybody should be able to go into the marketplace for ideas and raise debate, have these conversations, thrash things out, and it should be a fair fight. If you've got a think tank on your side, or if you've got a professional lobbyist on your side, then suddenly we've got a 500-pound gorilla in the middle of the marketplace of ideas, and it's no longer a fair fight. So that's really where we come to with press groups and think tanks. I think I've been able to keep this admirably short. I do suggest you go out and make sure you put some meat on these particular bones, because this is very much an outline of what they do. And any questions or any comments that you got, put them below the line. I look forward to hearing from you. And yeah, keep enjoying your politics and let me know what you want to hear. See you all soon. Bye now.